They've got dinner and dueling piano packages. And then on Fridays, they do comedy as well. So call Burroughs, 810-227-6000. Ask for Jem and tell him Gary and Ed told you to call.
Yeah.
Get out there. It is one of the best atmospheres. They pour a good drink. Eric is a great bartender out there. He pours a mean drink. And it's just a great place to go and have dinner. 810-227-6000, burroughs-roadhouse.com. Okay, so...
I wanted to say something. It's nice to have Derek back.
Absolutely. Derek, you are the consummate professional, and we love having you, and it's just awesome.
Yep.
You do a good job.
I mean, I like Dan. I like Dan. Dan's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun when Dan is here.
Dan is fun, yes.
Yep.
But Derek is, you're just...
you don't even notice Derek's here. He's that good.
Did I tell you we've been doing this for 6 years?
Yeah, you did.
6 years, yeah.
All
right, well,
let's
we've got Congressman Tim Walberg, 7th District, U.S. Congressman, calling in, and now we can get our update for the month. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be with you.
Yeah, glad. We got a bunch of questions for you, but as always, I'm going to let you go first because I'm sure there's a couple of things that I don't want you to miss out telling us about. So why don't you give us an update of what's going on?
Well, I think some of the key things that are taking place are happening in the House as general. We get things passed, we send it to the Senate, and then we hear the ticking clock before things happen, and they happen so slowly. But at least the agenda of the people are being cared for in the House this past week. In fact, yesterday we passed the reauthorization of CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program for Michigan, which meets the needs of kids, low-income individuals, and I think does it in a positive way. Also retain funding for the federally qualified community health centers, renewed that for 2 years. And those are things that I think provide real assistance to people in need and do it in a generally cost-effective way as opposed to some other entities like Planned Parenthood who really don't do the services that they indicate they do. And when you check in more carefully, they just do one thing well, and that's abortion.
Yeah. So, Tim, we still haven't defunded Planned Parenthood yet, right?
Yeah, we have. We
have
in various ways. However, it isn't a permanent defunding, and that's what we want to do through the appropriations package that we passed back in, when was it? July, and sent it to the Senate. It sits there. That will be a permanent thing, and the people have been asking for that across the United States overwhelmingly because they heard the reports about selling human body parts and the like coming from Planned Parenthood. And some people can, for one reason or another, put up with abortion, but not put up with that. And so we're continuing that process. But that was passed this week, and more importantly, the budget was passed the prior week, and this week the tax cut bill was made public with the details. On Monday, the Ways and Means Committee will take it up for markup. Markup means there is the opportunity for amendments to be offered by both Republican and Democrat committee members. They will certainly be offered. I would guess it'll be a long, very long markup section, not unlike the one that happened in Energy and Commerce on the Affordable Care Act repeal. That went 27 and a half hours before we completed that and sent it to the floor. So that'll take place. The intent is still to have a vote on the tax cut bill by the Friday before we go out for the Thanksgiving holiday recess. So it still seems to be on track. Paul Ryan made a wonderful illustration interview who have enjoyed taking a raft on the rapid.
Tim, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah,
oh, there.
You hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit. All right, keep going.
Well, hopefully it gets a little better cell here. Anyway, we've been in level 3 rapids with talking about the tax cut, tax reform bill. But now that it's out in the public, Paul Ryan said we're going to hit level 5 rapids. And he basically instructed us, and I think rightly so, smile at the people who are asking for continuation of this credit, this carve-out, that carve-out, and tell them that the only way we're going to get this done is that everybody gives a bit, and we actually do comprehensive tax reform that does two key things. One, makes it simpler and fairer. Two, it spreads the tax over everybody so that ultimately the middle class gains and is capable of seeing a resurgence in the middle class that gives opportunity for the future for all.
Are we going to see the lower 48% of the population, the ones that Romney referred to, are we going to see them pay anything in?
Or the ones that Hillary referred to as the deplorables. The whole purpose of this tax cut bill is for the middle class. That I think I can't say it any clearer than that.
Well, what I mean is there are people who currently don't pay any federal income tax. Will we see those people? It's roughly 48% is the number I've heard. Will we see them pay in now?
Yeah, there will be those that will pay in because, as we said, we're going to spread it. So if you have any type of job, you have any type of potential of paying a tax and responsibility paying tax, you will. However, we've also increased the standard deduction from $6,000 to $12,000 for an individual and up to $24,000 for a couple. So there is going to be benefits for all, and I think the key is to make sure that those who are the working class, that they have a break, and they also have, I think more importantly, security of their jobs and the opportunity for seeing employment opportunities advance as well. The basic guts of the matter shows that the average working family now, a family of four, $59,000 a year, will see about between $1,800 and $1,900 of tax cut that they'll experience. Plus, on top of that, looking at dynamic scoring, the impact upon their jobs and the earning capabilities will approach $3,000 annually by the end of next year. I can't think of a family like that couldn't use an additional $3,000 to $4,000 in their pockets, which includes also a $1,900 tax cut.
Yeah, well, I did the simple math based on what we've seen so far, and for me, it's a huge difference.
Well, you and I make $1.5 million off this show. So I'm just curious. I was wanting to ask how it's going to impact us.
Yeah, in my dreams, maybe.
I always wondered about that, how much you made up.
I pay to be here, man. Are you kidding me? This costs me to come into this show.
I bring coffee. It costs me $4.01 a week.
That's right. Now, I'm very happy, Tim. I do worry about this, but answer me this. So whatever you guys end up passing out of the House, and I'm sure it's going to change a little bit, and there's going to be that special interest will get their hand in there. When it goes to the Senate, are we looking at 51 to pass or 60 to pass?
We're looking at 51.
Okay.
And that's why we're doing it through the reconciliation process, and that's why there will be some things that we can't do in policy because it has to relate specifically to spending and revenue. But on a tax reform proposal, that's what mostly it's all about. So we're going to get a lot done in this approach, but it will require only 51 in the Senate. Last week when we met with the White House, they're still very positive about where the Senate is. Now that I'll have to see it to believe it. Being a House member, knowing that the other party is our opposition, the Senate's our enemy. They've shown that on a number of things already. But so far, we're not hearing about John McCain going south on us. We heard Marco Rubio had a little concern about the standard deduction and a couple other things not being enough. But so far, there's no indication that he would vote against this proposal. The White House says that they are still with us, and the best indicator is that there's not been one senator talking about the House and trying to instruct us on what we ought to do. That was so much different in the health care reform, and then they found out they couldn't get it done. So they've been a little quiet. I think a little embarrassed as well.
Yeah.
Not accomplishing what the people wanted them to do.
Yeah, I guess because I know there are people complaining. I heard some Chamber of Commerce guy and some small business guy on the news this morning complaining that it doesn't do enough for the small business and blah. And I'm like, at this point, listen, Republicans, you need to pass something. I'll take that baby step. Let's get a baby step done. And if things are good and the economy is good in 2018, maybe we'll pick up those other 8 spots in the Senate where we'll end up with 60 votes, right? Because that's what's keeping us down right now. There's a lot more we could do if we had the Senate with 60 votes. If Mitch McConnell would take it all back to 51 and stop being such a coward, we could do it right now. But until we get rid of that gobbleneck whatever guy, we're not going to get it because he's a coward. But for God doggone it, let's make sure we get something passed that is equivalent, and especially it's the corporate rate. We're still looking at 20%. Nobody's backing off of that, right?
No, nobody's backing off on 20% corporate rates. The pass-through corporations, S-corps, etc., they're looking at a maximum, except in a few cases, of 25%. Some of those that are larger, much greater in size and funding, who are pass-throughs nonetheless, and they have active owner leadership, directorship, they'll be up as high as 35, but nowhere beyond that. My concern is not so much with Chamber, et cetera. They're on board, the American Chamber of Commerce. Almost all the business organizations are on board, almost all. NFIB is hanging back a little bit because they would like to see themselves go to 20%, but there are reasons why you can't and why you can't make the numbers work, and I think they'll come on board. There are only two entities that are really out there right now, and that's the National Realtors Association and the Home Builders Association. And basically, they're saying you've given such a great tax cut that people won't use the mortgage interest deduction anymore because you've given the increase in the standard deduction already, and most people won't have to use that. I never bought a house based upon a tax credit, and I never bought anything, a car or motorcycle or anything else based upon some type of tax credit or even a washing machine. I bought it because I had the money in my pocket. It made good sense. I got the best deal I could, and I needed it. And I think realtors down the road will see, because of more money in people's pockets and more disposable income that they can choose how to use, they're still going to buy homes. And we do have the property tax deduction that's still in, up to, in the case of somebody purchasing a home after this goes into effect, it'll only be allowed up to $500,000 for the mortgage interest deduction. The property tax deduction will be $10,000 cap.
Okay.
Well, this kind of helps me because I've paid off my house, so now I don't get that deduction anymore, but I'm going to get another deduction.
That's
so
right.
It works for
Yeah.
me.
So some people, it's a give and take, and I think most people need to understand that. And doggone it, let's take the baby step and move in the right direction at least. You know
Well,
what I
for
mean?
somebody who just bought a house yesterday.
That's right. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Let me put out something that might be helpful to your listeners before I forget it, and that's a text. If they go to their smartphones and go to their text and put in the message box these two words, tax reform, and in the address box put in 50589. So text tax reform to 50589. That will put you into a regular text update that you'll get. I got another one yesterday myself because I put myself into that so I could see what comes out. It takes you to our fairandbalance.gop, and you'll be given updates on what's going on, and eventually on that Fair and Balanced GOP website, there will be I'm told, a tax calculator, so you can put your financials in, and you can see what impact this tax reform package will have for you. So,
that's awesome. Yeah.
Text tax reform to 505.
I hope I don't regret this.
50589. Okay, good. All right. So, Tim, let me. We got a bunch to try and cover here. Obamacare. Are we done, or are we going to try and get to that maybe after the first of the year?
I'm excited about the president himself in a conference call we had with him 2.5 weeks ago. Talked about his push on the tax reform bill, but he spent almost as much time talking about, guys, we get this thing done, we're going to go back to the health care reform, and we're going to get something passed before the end of 2018. I want to sign it. And he talked to us about the negotiations he continues to do with the Senate, and it looks like for once they are moving positively forward on that. And with the negotiations, with regular order on their floor, even John McCain should be satisfied. If, Lord willing, he's still living by that time, he will have an opportunity not to say, you didn't do regular order, you didn't do debate, you didn't have hearings on it, but we'll have the hearings. And the president feels that the Senate will get it out, and if they get it out, the House will pass it, and the people will have reform. It'll probably take the approach of the Graham-Cassidy bill that gave power back to the states through block grants and basically saying states have at it. You be the laboratory of life success, and you come up with a plan, and with 50 states, we should at least get one of those states, hopefully Michigan, that comes up with a better idea, and we give control back to people to pick what they need to cover their health care needs.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, what about House Bill 38?
That's the reciprocity bill.
Oh, good. You know